Reflection. They keep playing you like you don't know your own value. They keep testing you like you don't see the pattern. Reflection. And they keep counting on your silence because your silence is what makes them comfortable. But enough is enough. You were not born to blend in. You were not built to settle. Reflection. You were never meant to be somebody's backup plan, emotional crutch, or convenience call. You are exceptional. Now, I'm not here to give you a feel-good message. Reflection. I'm not here to pat your back and tell you to just believe in yourself. No, I'm here to shake you up. Because someone out there is playing you, counting on you to forget who you are. Reflection. They depend on your doubt, your fear, your people-pleasing, your hesitation. But deep down, you know the truth. You've known it all along. You just got tired. Tired of being misunderstood. Reflection. Tired of being underestimated. Tired of giving more than you get. Let me remind you of something. You are not ordinary. Your presence carries weight. Your energy shifts rooms. Reflection. Your vision, when it's not clouded by self-doubt, is powerful beyond measure. So why are you allowing people to treat you like a side note? Reflection. Some of you are stuck in relationships where your love is being milked but never mirrored. Some of you are sitting in workplaces where your talent is being used but never respected. And others. Reflection. You're betraying yourselves every single day trying to fit into a mold you've outgrown. Here's the truth. If people keep playing you, reflection, it's because they don't expect you to stand up. But the second you stop dancing to their tune, they panic. Because now you remember who you are. You remember that your time is currency. Reflection. Your attention is power. Your peace, that's luxury. And your boundaries, they're non-negotiable. Don't just be nice. Be strong. Don't just be available. Be intentional. Reflection. Don't just be good to people. Be good to yourself first. And hear me now, being exceptional doesn't mean being arrogant. It means recognizing that you are rare. Reflection. That you carry something the world needs. That you have value without needing permission or validation. So from this moment on, you walk differently. You speak like you mean it. Reflection. You move with purpose. You no longer apologize for taking up space. You no longer shrink so someone else can shine. You no longer let manipulation wear the mask of love. You are done being played. Reflection. Let them be confused. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them wonder what changed. Because what changed, that was you. You woke up. You stopped negotiating your worth. You chose to rise. Reflection. And now it's their move. So here's where we have to pause and get real with no sugarcoating, no fluff, just truth. Because until you learn to stop accepting being treated as less, reflection, you will continue to get played. And I'm not talking about dramatic betrayals or some headline heartbreak. I'm talking about those quiet moments when you ignore the voice inside you saying, reflection, this doesn't feel right. I'm talking about when you downplay your brilliance to make someone else feel comfortable. When you say yes, just to avoid confrontation. Reflection, when you laugh off disrespect like it didn't sting, that right there is how it starts. That's how they know they can keep playing you. You teach people how to treat you. Reflection. And I don't say that lightly. I say that from experience. You set the standard even when you think you're just being nice or keeping the peace. The truth is, reflection. Every time you excuse the little things, you're silently giving permission for more of the same. And it adds up. Reflection. Disrespect doesn't usually walk through the door yelling. It slips in through your silence. Now listen, there's nothing noble about shrinking. Reflection. There's no medal waiting at the end of the road for being constantly overlooked, constantly ignored, constantly used. You're not here to be the background music in someone else's story. Reflection. You are the lead. You are the message. You are the energy that shifts the room. So why are you giving that power away like it's nothing? Sometimes we stay because we think reflection, and maybe they'll change. We give people second, third, 10th chances because our hearts are wired for compassion. But your compassion shouldn't cost you your clarity. Reflection. You can love people and still walk away when they stop honoring who you are. That is not bitterness. That is self-respect. And self-respect, that's non-negotiable. Reflection. Let me tell you something that might sting, but it's truth. If someone keeps treating you as less, it's because they believe you'll keep accepting it. That's the game. Reflection. And they're not going to stop playing it unless you flip the script. That doesn't mean you have to get loud or confrontational. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is go silent. Reflection. Walk away and let absence speak volumes. Some people don't deserve closure. Some people only understand distance. You see, when you stop accepting less, you automatically raise the bar. Reflection. And not just for others, for yourself. You stop settling, you stop begging, you stop proving, you start attracting what aligns, what respects, what nourishes. And when that shift happens, reflection, people notice. Suddenly the ones who used to play with your time, your heart, your value, they feel that change. They may not say it, but they sense it, reflection. And the ones who were only there because of your broken boundaries, they disappear. Let them. You've spent too long negotiating your worth in rooms that couldn't see you. Reflection. You've tolerated disrespect disguised as jokes. You've let people come and go like your spirit was a revolving door. But that ends today. Reflection. You don't have to yell to be heard. You just have to stop participating in your own disrespect. This is your moment. Your reminder, your wake-up call. You are not a backup plan. Reflection. You are not an afterthought. You are not here to be good enough for someone who doesn't even recognize excellence when it's standing right in front of them. You are exceptional. Reflection. You've got depth. You've got brilliance. You've got layers they haven't even begun to understand. But here's the part no one tells you. Reflection. Being exceptional is not enough if you don't believe it yourself. You've got to walk like you know, speak like you know, choose like you know. Not with arrogance, but with assurance. Reflection. Quiet strength is still strength. Dignity doesn't shout, but it speaks volumes. So I want you to ask yourself right now, where in your life have you been accepting less? Reflection. Where have you been handing out discounts on your time, your energy, your soul? And more importantly, when are you going to stop? Because the truth is, you don't need their validation. Reflection. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be picked to prove your worth. You were already enough the moment you showed up. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them be confused. Reflection. Let them question what happened to the old you. That old you, the one who tolerated being played, is gone. This version is done settling. This version remembers who she is. Reflection. And once you remember, you don't unknow, you rise. You walk different. You protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. So here's my question to you. Reflection. Where are you still pretending you're not exceptional just to fit into a space that can't handle your light? And let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if this hit home, reflection, like subscribe and share this with someone else who needs the reminder. Reflection. You are not meant to be played. You are meant to lead. Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. Your silence is powerful. But when misused, reflection, it becomes the very thing that keeps you stuck. You think staying quiet is keeping the peace. You think holding it all and makes you strong. Reflection. You think biting your tongue means you're rising above it. But here's the truth. When you stay silent about the things that hurt, the things that disrespect you, reflection, the things that diminish your soul, you are not protecting peace. You are preserving dysfunction, because silence is not neutral. Silence speaks. And sometimes it speaks louder than words. Reflection. When someone crosses a boundary and you say nothing, you're not teaching them to be better. You're teaching them they can get away with it. Reflection. You're showing them that your peace is negotiable, that your worth is bendable, that you can be tested, pushed, and taken for granted without consequence. Reflection. And let me just say this, you deserve better than that. But first you have to recognize that the silence you think is strength might actually be fear. Fear of losing people. Reflection. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of rocking the boat. But what about the fear of losing yourself? What about the fear of living a life where your voice is never truly heard? Reflection. Where you become a background character in your own story. You can't grow in silence if silence is the reason you're being overlooked. See, people who manipulate, people who play you, reflection, they don't need you to scream. They just need you to stay silent, because your silence is agreement. Your silence is cooperation, reflection. And so many people stay trapped, not because they're weak, but because they keep hoping their silence will inspire change. That if they keep loving hard enough, waiting long enough, reflection, tolerating long enough, the other person will see. But the truth is, silence doesn't make them see. It just makes them comfortable. And I know this is hard, reflection, because speaking up doesn't always feel safe, especially when you've spent years being told you're too emotional, too sensitive, too much. Reflection, especially when you've been conditioned to be the peacemaker, the one who smooths everything over, the one who keeps it together for everyone else. Reflection. But let me ask you something. Who's holding it together for you? Who sees your tears when you cry in the car after pretending you're okay? Reflection. Who notices the way your energy drops when they make that joke that's not funny? Who's paying attention when your silence is actually a scream in disguise? You've got to be the one. Reflection. You've got to see it, because you cannot keep expecting someone to hear what you never say. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about confrontation. Reflection. It's not about fighting or yelling or proving a point. It's about knowing your voice is sacred, that your truth is not an inconvenience, that your boundaries are not optional. Reflection. That when something hurts, you don't swallow it and smile. You acknowledge it and you honor your own experience. Because when you do that, reflection, When you stop choosing silence as a survival tool and start using your voice as a declaration of your worth, everything changes. You stop attracting people who thrive on your silence. Reflection. You start attracting people who respect your voice. But it starts with you. It starts in those moments when your spirit says, this doesn't feel right. And instead of shutting it down, flexion. You listen. It starts when you say, I didn't like that, and you say it out loud, even if your voice shakes. It starts when you refuse to let fear rob you of your expression. Reflection. You don't owe anyone comfort at the cost of your own truth. You don't have to keep the peace if keeping the peace means betraying your soul. There is power in your voice. Flexion. There is freedom in your honesty. There is healing in your boundaries. And for every time they called you too much, let me remind you, you were never too much. Reflection. They were just too small to handle all that you are. So from now on, you don't silence yourself for the sake of someone else's ego. You don't whisper your worth. Flexion. You don't mute your truth. You speak it, live it, embody it, because you are worthy of being heard. Let them be surprised when the quiet one finally speaks up. Reflection. Let them adjust to the version of you that no longer bites her tongue. Let them learn, because your voice is no longer missing in the room. Reflection. So I want to ask you something, and be honest with yourself. Ask, where in your life has your silence been mistaken for permission? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Reflection. And if this message stirred something in you, go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's ready to stop whispering and start rising. Reflection. Let me tell you something that might sound simple, but it's one of the hardest truths to live by. You were not meant to blend in. Flexion. And I'm not just talking about being unique in the way you dress or in your talents or your creativity. No, I'm talking about your essence. That inner fire, that deep knowing. Reflection. That voice that keeps telling you why you are different. That is not a flaw. That's not something to hide. That's the message. That's the purpose. That's the assignment. Reflection. But here's what happens to so many of us. We spend years learning how to dim ourselves just enough to be accepted. We learn how to round our edges so we don't offend. Reflection. We learn how to shrink so we don't stand out too much. We let the world teach us that being loud in our light is dangerous, that being full of vision is arrogant. Reflection. That being honest about what we want makes us selfish. And so we start blending in, not because we don't know who we are, but because it feels safer to pretend we don't. Flexion. I've seen it too many times. A woman with power in her voice, but she softens it so she won't come across as too assertive. A man with tears in his heart. Reflection. But he swallows them because real men don't cry. A soul with a dream too bold, too wild, too holy. And they bury it because they're surrounded by people who can't see past the ordinary. Reflection. But let me ask you, what good is your gift if you keep hiding it in places it was never meant to survive? See, reflection. The problem with trying to blend in is that it demands you sacrifice the very thing that makes you extraordinary. And for what? Approval. Comfort. The illusion of belonging. Flexion. Let me tell you something. Any space that requires you to silence your brilliance is not a space worth keeping. Any relationship that can only love you watered down is not real love. Reflection. Any circle where you have to pretend to be less just to be invited in is a cage dressed as community. You were never created to be average. There is nothing accidental about you. Reflection. There's a reason you feel things deeply. There's a reason your ideas feel too big. There's a reason mediocrity leaves you restless. That's your spirit saying, reflections, he was made for more than this. Sometimes more is lonely. Sometimes it's misunderstood. Flexion. Sometimes it feels like everyone's moving one way and you're being called in the opposite direction. That's because purpose doesn't follow the crowd. Reflection. Purpose doesn't care about being liked. It cares about being fulfilled, and that fulfillment, that only comes when you stop blending and start becoming. Flexion. Now becoming who you truly are. That takes courage. It takes unlearning all the lies you were taught about your worth. Flexion. It takes walking away from people who only knew how to love you when you were quiet, small, and agreeable. It takes telling yourself the truth, even when it scares you. I can no longer stay here. Reflection. I am meant for something else. Because when you finally step out of the camouflage, when you stop trying to mold yourself into what makes everyone else comfortable, reflection, you begin to see the world differently. You begin to walk differently. You begin to attract differently. You start drawing in people, opportunities, flexion, and energy that match your truth, not your disguise. And yes, some people will fall away. Some won't understand. Some will say, you changed in your answer. Yes, I have. Reflection. I've stopped hiding. I've started showing up. I've stopped shrinking. Reflection. And I've started rising. You don't owe anyone an apology for choosing to live fully in the light of your own becoming. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to shine. Flexion. You were born with that permission. It's written in your breath. It's etched into your soul. It's the reason no one else on this planet has your exact voice, your exact story, reflection, your exact fire. So this is your moment to stop blending, to stop molding, to stop pretending that normalcy satisfies you, because it never has. Reflection. Because you've always known that deep within you is something sacred, something strong, something exceptional. And when you finally stop blending in, something beautiful happens. Reflection. You start becoming a mirror for others. You give them permission to be bold too. You give them courage to live loud, to dream bigger, to speak truth, to stop settling. Reflection. And isn't that what we're really here for? To live fully so others are reminded they can too. So let me ask you this. Ask, what have you been blending into? Reflection. That no longer fits the shape of your spirit. Drop it in the comments. Let's get real. And if this message found your heart today, subscribe, reflection, and share it with someone who's ready to come out of hiding. Flexion. Because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs youth. There comes a moment in life where you have to stop asking why they don't see you and start asking why you keep showing up for people who never look. That part stings. Reflection, I know. But there's freedom in facing it. Because sometimes it's not about whether they value you. It's about why you keep trying to convince them to. Reflection. Why you keep pouring into spaces that can't hold you. Why you keep planting seeds in dry soil, hoping it'll bloom this time. And every time it doesn't, reflection. You don't walk away, you try harder, you give more, you love deeper. And they still don't show up for you. Let me tell you something. It is not your job to beg for love. Reflection. It is not your purpose to prove your worth to people who've already decided they can live without honoring it. If you have to shrink to be chosen, it's not love. Reflection. If you have to break yourself just to keep the peace, it's not connection, it's control. But many of us were raised to believe that loyalty means staying. Flexion. Even when staying is draining the life out of you. That love means giving endlessly, even when nothing is coming back. And so you sit in rooms, in relationships, reflection, in friendships where your presence is tolerated, not celebrated. And you call it loyalty. You call it patience. You call it strength. But deep down, you know, you're not being strong. Reflection. You're being silent. And there's a difference. You can't heal in a space that keeps wounding you. You can't grow in soil that's been poisoned by indifference. Reflection. And you cannot rise while holding on to people who only see your light when it benefits them. That's not love. That's convenience. And you deserve more than being someone's convenience. Reflection. Now I know letting go is hard. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because it means walking away not just from people, but from the version of yourself that stayed too long. Flexion. The version of you that thought if you just did more, they'd finally choose you. The version of you that thought love meant sacrifice without limit. But love doesn't ask you to lose yourself. Reflection, love holds you while you rise. It doesn't ask you to prove over and over that you're enough. At some point, you have to stop watering dead things. At some point, reflection, you have to stop asking for closure and give it to yourself. At some point, reflection, you have to love yourself so fiercely that you become unavailable to people who only come around when they need something from you. That's not selfish. That's survival. That's healing. Flexion, because here's the truth. Real love doesn't leave you confused. Real love doesn't feel like punishment. Real love doesn't come with conditions that silence your truth or dim your light. Reflection. And when you finally realize that something shifts, you stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop overcompensating, you stop apologizing for having needs. And in that moment, reflection. When you choose yourself, you begin to rise. And rising isn't loud. Sometimes it's a whisper, a quiet decision to no longer answer that message, to not explain why you're unavailable. Flexion, to unfollow, not out of hate, but out of healing. To say, I love you, but I love me more, and walk away with grace. Because walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally do. Reflection. You care enough about your peace to protect it. You care enough about your future to stop repeating cycles that were only meant to teach you, not trap you. Reflection. And when you finally stop showing up for people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared, something beautiful happens. You show up for you, and you begin to pour into your own cup. Reflection. You begin to recognize your own reflection again. You begin to understand that your worth was never tied to who chose you or who stayed. It was always yours. Always there. Reflection. Always waiting to be honored by you first. Letting go isn't failure. It's wisdom. It's growth. It's alignment. So the next time someone treats you like you're optional, remember this. Reflection. Exceptional people are rarely appreciated in real time, but that doesn't mean you're not valuable. It means they weren't ready for you. And that's okay. Reflection. Their readiness isn't your responsibility. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be where you're seen, where you're nourished, where you can breathe. Reflection, where you can be. So I want you to ask yourself, who are you still showing up for, hoping they'll finally see your worth? And how much longer will you wait? Reflection, when you already know the answer, drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if this spoke to your spirit, hit like, subscribe, reflection, and share it with someone who needs the courage to choose themselves. Reflection, because when you finally choose you, the game changes. One of the greatest shifts in your life will happen the moment you realize not everyone gets access to you. Reflection, not everyone deserves a seat at your table. And just because someone wants you doesn't mean they value you. Just because someone likes your light doesn't mean they know how to protect it. Reflection, you've got to stop confusing attention with intention, because not all attention is love. Some attention is just curiosity. Some is convenience. Some is control. Reflection, and if you're not clear on who you are and what you deserve, you'll keep entertaining people who are only interested in using your presence, not respecting your purpose. Reflection, too many people are out here starving for validation, starving for a text back, starving for a call, for a compliment, for any small sign that they matter. Reflection, but here's the thing. If you constantly need others to feed your sense of self, you will always be starving, because your worth was never meant to be held in someone else's hands. Reflection, you cannot let temporary people hold permanent power over your self-esteem. And yet we do it. We let people breadcrumb us. Reflection, we settle for almost love. We fall in love with someone's potential. We confuse mixed signals with real connection. Reflection, and worst of all, we keep showing up for people who keep showing us they don't have the capacity to meet us where we are. And then we ask, why do I feel so empty? Reflection, you feel empty because you keep giving your energy to people who only take. You feel empty because you're watering relationships where you're the only one showing up with a bucket. Reflection, you feel empty because you keep tolerating the bare minimum from people who should be giving you the absolute most. Let me be very clear. Your time, your energy, your love, reflection, your presence, it is a privilege. Not everyone should get access to that. You don't owe everyone your patience. You don't owe them repeated chances. Reflection, you don't owe them an explanation when the energy doesn't match anymore. You can love people and still let them go. You can care and still say, this is no longer healthy for me. Reflection, and I know that's not easy. I know you were raised to be kind. I know you were taught to always consider the other person's feelings. But when do you start considering your own? Reflection, when do you stop handing out VIP access to people who barely even check in on you? When do you start treating yourself like you matter? This is not about being selfish. Reflection, this is about being selective, because your peace is precious. Your spirit is sacred. Your life is not a playground for people to come and go as they please, depending on their mood, reflection, their convenience, their availability. You have every right to protect your space. You have every right to stop answering, to stop fixing, to stop explaining. Reflection, to stop over-functioning in relationships that leave you drained and resentful, because you were not put on this earth to be anyone's emotional sponge. Reflection, you were not put here to teach people how to love you while breaking yourself into pieces they can manage. So what do? You get clear on your standards. You stop negotiating your worth. Reflection, you stop hoping people will change if you just love them harder. You stop asking for what should be freely given. Reflection, and you start protecting your access like your life depends on it, because it does. Because once you learn how to love yourself, really love yourself, reflection, you stop being available to people who only want to borrow your energy. You stop being the one always reaching out, always initiating, always fixing. And instead, reflection, you sit back and watch who actually shows up, who actually listens, who actually invests, who actually matches your heart with effort, not just words. That's how you know who gets to stay. Reflection, not the ones who chase you when you leave, but the ones who consistently choose you when you're there. So here's the moment you draw the line. You protect your access. You say, reflection, I don't care how long we've known each other. If this energy is no longer aligned, I'm releasing it with love. You say, reflection, I'm not explaining my boundaries to anyone who repeatedly crosses them. You say, I deserve to be loved in a way that doesn't require me to constantly question my value. Reflection, you deserve to feel chosen, not chased after you've walked away, chosen when you're still standing there, present, willing, and whole. Reflection. So I want to ask you, who in your life has been enjoying your energy but not respecting your worth? And are you ready to close that door? Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Reflection. Drop it in the comments. Let's be real about it. And if this message gave you that nudge, that truth, that wake-up call, go ahead, like, subscribe, reflection, and share it with someone who's done giving away access without protection, because your light deserves protection. and your soul deserves peace. There's something you need to hear today, reflection, and not just hear with your ears, but hear with your soul. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not behind. You are not a mistake. What you are is becoming, reflection, and becoming isn't always pretty. It's not always smooth. It's not always clear. Sometimes becoming looks like falling apart. Sometimes it looks like crying in your car, reflection, wondering if you're ever going to get it right. Sometimes it looks like silence, isolation, saying no to everything just so you can hear yourself think again, reflection. The world will try to tell you that your mess disqualifies you, that the chapters you don't want to talk about, reflection. The parts of your story you wish you could rewrite, those are what make you unworthy. But they're wrong, because it's those very things, the cracks, the heartbreaks, reflection, the detours that have been carving the strength inside you. That's where the wisdom is. That's where the growth happens. Not in the polished moments, not in the perfect photos, reflection, not in the highlight reel. Real growth happens in the dark, when nobody's clapping, when nobody sees the fight, when it's just you and your will to not give up, reflection. So if you're in that dark space right now, I want you to know it's okay to be there. Don't rush your way out of it just to look like you've got it all together, reflection. You don't need to fake strength to be strong. You don't need to pretend to be okay to be worthy of love. You can be in process and still be powerful. You can be healing and still be holy. Reflection, you can be figuring it out and still be enough. And let me say this to the ones who are tired of starting over, to the ones who feel like every time they stand up, life knocks them down again, reflection. You are not stuck. You are being refined. You are being shaped by the very things trying to break you. You are learning endurance. You are developing resilience. And I know it hurts, reflection, but pain is not your enemy. Pain is your mirror. Pain is showing you where you've been giving too much of yourself to things that don't nourish you. Reflection. Pain is waking you up to the parts of your life that are overdue for transformation. But here's the problem. We're taught to hide that part, to smile through the breakdown. Reflection, to keep performing like everything is fine. And in doing so, we lose our most powerful tool, authenticity. Because when you can stand in your truth, even when it's messy, reflection, even when it's painful, even when it's unfinished, you become unstoppable. You stop living for approval. You stop needing validation, reflection. You stop shrinking yourself just to make other people comfortable. You start owning your story, not just the chapters that sound good, but the ones that still make your voice shake. Reflection, because healing isn't about forgetting. It's about facing it without shame. It's about saying, yes, that happened. Yes, I went through it. Yes, reflection. I lost myself for a while, but I'm still here. I'm still rising. I'm still becoming. And let me tell you something else. What you've survived, someone else is still drowning in. Reflection. What you've overcome, someone else hasn't even found the words for yet. So don't be ashamed of your scars. Your scars are proof that you didn't quit. Your scars are your testimony, reflection. And someone somewhere is going to need that light you've earned through the fire. But you can't share your light with the world if you keep hiding behind shame. Shame will keep you stuck, reflection, and shame will lie to you. Shame will convince you that you're not worthy of peace or love or rest until you fix everything. But there is no finish line to healing. Reflection, there's only honoring where you are right now and choosing to keep showing up for yourself. So today, if nothing else, reflection, I want you to start speaking to yourself like someone you're learning to love. I want you to stop tearing yourself down for what you didn't know back then. Reflection, I want you to stop holding yourself hostage to an outdated version of you that didn't have the tools, the clarity, or the strength you have now. You are allowed to grow beyond who you were. Reflection, you are allowed to become someone new. You are allowed to rewrite the script. And the truth is, you don't need to have it all figured out to move forward. Reflection, you just need to believe somewhere deep down that you are worth fighting for. Not just in theory, not just someday, but right now, as you are. Messy, unfinished, healing, growing, becoming, reflection. So let me ask you, what part of your story have you been ashamed of? That is actually part of your strength. Let's talk about it in the comments. Reflection, you never know who needs to hear that they're not alone. And if this message found a home in your heart, like subscribe, reflection, and share it with someone who's still learning to believe they're not broken, they're becoming. There's something that happens when you finally realize you're not for everyone. Reflection, that's a hard truth for people who have spent most of their life trying to be everything for everyone. You know the ones I see you. The peacemakers, the fixers, the pleasers. Reflection, the ones who bite their tongues to keep the room calm. The ones who swallow their needs just to make sure everybody else is okay. You've worn every mask they handed you. good daughter. Flexion, dependable friend, loyal partner, perfect worker. And maybe somewhere along the way, you forgot that you are more than what you do for other people. You are more than what you provide. Reflection, what you solve, what you sacrifice. But here's the revelation: you can't keep giving the world a version of you that you don't recognize anymore. You weren't put here to blend in. Flexion, you weren't created to dilute yourself so you could fit into places that require you to be small. You are not here to be digestible. You are here to be real. Reflection, and realness is rarely comfortable for people who thrive on convenience. Because let's be honest, when you start honoring yourself, you stop performing. And when you stop performing, reflection, some people will leave. They will call you difficult, too direct, too emotional, too sensitive. They'll say you changed. And you know what? They'll be right. You did change. Flexion, you stopped auditioning. You stopped proving. You stopped handing out pieces of yourself just to feel included. And maybe now you're standing in a season of isolation, a quieter place. Flexion, a lonely place, and it doesn't feel good. But don't confuse isolation with punishment. Sometimes separation is preparation. Reflection, sometimes the silence is the sanctuary where you remember who you really are, not the version of you that made everyone else comfortable. Reflection, the version of you that's been buried under years of playing roles that were never meant for you. You see, when you begin to honor yourself, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, reflection, so do your surroundings. Some doors close, some people fall off. Not because you're bitter, but because you're better. Because when you stop chasing validation, flexion, the people who only valued your performance will disappear. And that's okay. Because the ones who are meant for you, they won't be confused by your growth. They won't resent your boundaries. Flexion, they won't guilt you for evolving. They'll see your strength and not feel threatened by it. They'll clap when you win. They'll sit with you when you struggle. Reflection, they'll speak your name in rooms you're not even in. But until they arrive, until you attract what aligns with your truth, you've got to be okay walking alone. Reflection, you've got to get comfortable being misunderstood, because not everyone will get you and not everyone is supposed to. You're not here to be understood by the masses. Flexion, you're here to be authentic to the message inside of you. And the ones who can't handle that, let them go with love. You don't have to argue to be heard. Reflection, you don't have to defend your boundaries. You don't have to apologize for the light you carry. If someone gets uncomfortable when you stop shrinking, that's not your burden to carry. Reflection, that's their invitation to grow. But hear me now. You will lose people, you will lose comfort, you will lose predictability, but what you will gain is yourself. You will gain clarity. Reflection, you will gain peace. You will gain strength that doesn't rely on approval to stand tall, and that's a powerful place to live from. So the next time you feel tempted to explain, to prove, reflection, to water yourself down to be palatable, pause. Ask yourself, am I showing up as who I really am or as who they want me to be? And if the answer makes you shrink, it's time to rise. Reflection, you were never meant to be a mirror reflecting everyone else's needs. You are a flame, you are fire. And yes, reflection, that kind of light makes people uncomfortable, but it also awakens those who have been sitting in the dark, waiting for someone like you to remind them of their power. Reflection, so let the old version of you rest, the one who sought permission to take up space, the one who kept quiet just to be liked, the one who wore masks so well. Reflection, even you forgot what your face looked like. Let her go. And step boldly into your truth. Because when you stop performing, reflection, and start showing up as your whole self, that's when life starts to meet you with the fullness it always had waiting for you. Reflection. So here's what I want you to think about. Where in your life are you still performing just to feel accepted? And what would happen if you stop? Talk to me in the comments. Reflection. Someone else is reading this and needs your courage. If this spoke to you, hit that like, subscribe. Reflection. And pass it along to someone who's ready to stop auditioning and start being. There comes a point in your life when you stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for a green light. Flexion. You stop waiting for someone to choose you, see you, believe in you. Because you realize you are the one you've been waiting for all along. So many of us spend years in that space. Flexion, that almost ready space. We gather degrees, titles, advice, approval. We stay in preparation mode, waiting to be perfect before we begin. Waiting to be fully healed before we speak. Reflection, waiting for fear to disappear before we try. And yet, life doesn't respond to perfect. Life responds to movement, to courage, to truth in motion. The lie is that you need more time, more money, flexion, more confidence, more evidence. But the truth is, clarity comes through action. You build belief by doing. You build power by deciding. Reflection. There's a version of you that only exists on the other side of your boldness. But the world has trained you to doubt yourself, to second guess your ideas, to tone it down. to wait your turn, reflection, to play it safe, to keep it small. And so you shrink, you hesitate, you defer. You say, maybe next year, maybe when I'm more ready. But I'm here to tell you already enough. Reflection, not perfect, not fearless, not certain of the outcome, but ready enough to take the next step. And that's what matters, that you don't let the fear of failing keep you from even starting. Flexion. Let's be honest, some of you aren't afraid of failure. You're afraid of success. You're afraid of what will happen when your life actually changes. Reflection. You're afraid of losing people who were never meant to go where you're headed. You're afraid of the responsibility that comes with stepping into your calling. Reflection. But here's the thing, your fear doesn't get to be the driver anymore. You can bring it along for the ride, but it doesn't get to hold the wheel. Reflection. Because your assignment is bigger than your insecurity. Your purpose is louder than your past, and your future is waiting for you to say yes. So say yes, even if your voice shakes. Reflection. Even if you don't know how it'll all come together. Even if you're still learning, because the world doesn't need another perfect person. Reflection. The world needs someone who is brave enough to be real, to show up, to stand in their truth, to shine without apology. Reflection. And here's what I know, you already have everything inside you to become everything you're meant to be. That dream, that vision, that fire in your belly. It's not random. Reflection. It's not imaginary. It's divine. It's been planted in you for a reason. Your job isn't to understand it fully. Your job is to trust it, to nurture it. Reflection. To protect it from the noise that tells you to be realistic. Be quiet. Be like everybody else. You weren't born to be like everybody else. You were born to break patterns, to shatter limits. Reflection. To rise above everything that was sent to destroy you and become everything you were created to be. And yes, there will be days when you'll question it all. Reflection. There will, I want you to breathe for a second. Take a deep breath. Not the kind you take automatically, but the kind you take intentionally. The kind that reminds you you're still here. Reflection. After everything, after the disappointments, after the betrayals, after the seasons where you lost your way, your fire, and maybe even yourself, you're still here. And that means something. Reflection. That means you didn't fold. That means you're not finished. That means there's still something left for you to do. Something greater. Something deeper. Something that only you can carry. Reflection. You see, life will try to wear you down and call it normal. It'll try to make you question your value every time someone overlooks you, uses you, plays you. Reflection. But that's the moment you take your power back. That's the moment you look in the mirror and say, I am not what they did to me. I am not what I lost. I am not the mistake I made. Reflection. Or the love I didn't receive, or the chance they didn't give me. I am what I choose next. I am what I decide today. And today is a new moment. A turning point. Reflection. Not because everything will change overnight, but because you're changing. You're choosing different. You're seeing yourself differently. Reflection. You're recognizing that being exceptional isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about walking into rooms and no longer shrinking. Reflection. It's about no longer apologizing for your intuition, your voice, your light. It's about refusing to be played by a world that profits off your doubt. Reflection. The game stops when you decide you're done. Done chasing love that costs your peace. Done explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Reflection. Don't sacrificing your calling for crumbs of approval. Because the truth is, you were never here to play small. You were never meant to survive quietly. You were born to break cycles. Reflection. You were born to show others what healing looks like in motion. What standing back up looks like with grace. What becoming exceptional looks like from the inside out. Reflection. So if you've ever wondered whether it's too late, let me be the one to tell you it's not. You're not behind. You didn't miss it. You are right on time for your transformation. Reflection. Right on time for your comeback. Right on time to reclaim every part of you that the world tried to talk out of you. And here's what I believe with everything in me. When you stop settling, reflection, the right things find you. When you stop hiding, the right people see you. Reflection. And when you stop getting played, you start winning on a level that doesn't just elevate you. It inspires others to rise too. So ask yourself, reflection, what's one thing I need to release so I can finally rise? Is it a relationship, a belief, a version of you that no longer fits who you're becoming? Tell me in the comments. Reflection, someone else is reading and needs to know they're not the only one walking through it. Your story might be the permission someone else has been praying for. If this spoke to you, reflection, don't keep it to yourself. Like it. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And share it with someone who's been doubting their worth, dimming their light, reflection, or staying in spaces that no longer honor who they are. Because this is your moment. And from here on out, you don't play small. You don't play broken. You don't play average. Reflection. You rise because you're not just enough. You are exceptional. And now it's time the world saw it too.